welcome back to the part 2 of my Antarctica vlog. If you haven't watched the first part where I talk about the ship, then it's already uploaded on my YouTube channel. Now let's get into the exciting part of the expedition where I talk about the actual activities we did in our trip. Our trip started in Ushuaia, which is the largest city in Tierra del Fuego and is commonly regarded as the southernmost city in the world. Before we took off, we had a demonstration of how to put an immersion suit. After that, the chief safety officer gave us a briefing on safety procedures in case of emergency.
Port and port side in front of the lifeboat.
After the presentation, we performed a lifeboat drill. After the safety drill, the ship finally left the port and headed down the Beagle Channel, which was named after the famous HMS Beagle, the ship that Charles Darwin sailed on. The expedition staff called everyone back to the lounge for a quick introduction of the team and briefing on what to expect during our time in the expedition. After that, dinner was served. I was very impressed with the food and dining experience on the cruise ship. It not only met but also exceeded the quality and taste expectations that I had. After the dinner, the famous red waterproof jackets and a water bottle were handed out to each passenger. Next day, the ship had already passed the Beagle Channel and reached Cape Horn, which is the southernmost tip of South America where Atlantic and Pacific Oceans collide. Past the Cape Horn is the Drake Passage. This 800-kilometer, 500-mile stretch, marking the narrowest section of the Southern Ocean, is a rite of passage for Antarctic travelers. This section of Antarctic travel is renowned for its treacherous waters. However, we were prepared for the motion sickness that might happen in the crazy waves by already taking our medicine and patches the day before. Being cooped up while surrounded by never-ending view of the ocean was the perfect time to attend lectures about various Antarctic subjects.
I recognize that many of you, like me,
there were presentations on seabirds, marine animals, history and landscape in and around Antarctica by scientists and experts of the field. My favorite presentation was the presentation about penguins.
Pitcairn, the people are, it's not a big population, it's not a big...
A safety briefing was held for kayakers in between the lectures as well. Even though we were far away from any land, we could still see some birds that flew close to the ship, which satisfied our hunger for any signs of life other than the ship's crew and passengers. After all the lectures, we had a captain's welcome cocktail, and after the dinner, we had a camping briefing. Then it was time to end our night with some live music from an in-house musician. In the morning of day 3, we attended a briefing about the Zodiac. Zodiac boats are inflatable vessels favored for navigating challenging waters and reaching remote locations. After that, we had to complete mandatory biosecurity for any plants, gloves, sticks, bags that we were taking to the Antarctic land. This was followed by a lecture from our resident photographer. As we were about to go crazy by just swinging around the endless sea, what is this? A land? Finally, the ship had approached the South Shetland Islands on the northernmost side of Antarctica. As we sailed along the shore of the snow island, we started to see lots of icebergs and land formations. The expedition team located a relatively calm beach at President Head, and it was our first landing at Antarctica. We had to go through the mudroom to get to the Zodiacs. And the Zodiacs took us to the actual land. Riding on the Zodiac was relatively safe, although we had to be very careful while getting in and out of the Zodiac, and there were strict rules to follow. Finally, we landed in Antarctica. Woohoo! Personally, what a journey it has been for me. For a kid who grew up in a middle-class family in a third world country, to reach the end of the world is a big accomplishment, which I don't take lightly. As soon as we were on land, we saw wieners, young elephant seals. These seals are massive marine mammals known for their deep dives and dramatic breeding battles. The island also had a bunch of Gentoo penguins, which you can tell by their bright orange-red beaks and white bonnet marking. There was a small hike to a stunning viewpoint where you could see the other side of the island as well. After the successful landing, we came back to the ship and ate a wonderful dinner. Immediately after, there was a game of Antarctic Bluff. The audience had to choose the truth out of all the statements made by the participants.
Scotty won't play.
It was fun, but educational as well.
Similar to cattywampus or askew. And this picture does indeed...
By the end of the day, the skies were clear and we witnessed a spectacular sunset. Since it was almost summer in the southern polar region, the sunlight never left the sky and the sunset seemed to go on forever. The nice sunshine from the day earlier continued through the morning. The ship was already near our morning site, Orne Harbor. The main thing we could do in this location was to get to the top of Spigot Peak, and some of us successfully reached there. The view was incredible from the top. The other main attraction here were, of course, penguins. Chinstrap penguins, easily identified by the thin black band under the chins resembling a helmet strap, are bold and aggressive birds. They had formed large noisy colonies on the rocky slopes of the island. Their pebble-stealing, praying calls, and pair-bonding behaviors indicated that these birds were soon going to be laying their eggs. On our way back, the Zodiac did a short detour so that we could see the penguin colonies up close. We also went up close to some icebergs as well. After lunch, we were lucky enough to come across a pod of orcas moving next to the ship. This is it for the part 2 of the Antarctica trip vlog. Please come back to my channel for part 3 where we'll go kayaking for the first time in the expedition and spend a night camping in the open Antarctic land.